Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order, please, tonight with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everyone, tonight. Roll call, Mr. Lundberg.
Elm.
Yes.
Odie.
Yep.
Saxer.
Yes.
Talcott.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
All right, next, approval of the agenda.
Madam Chair, I just want to note we have one additional item to add to the agenda. It'll be item number 16 under personnel, hire Kent Schmidt as a transportation driver. It is on the agenda in front of you, noted within the agenda.
Thank you. With that, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
There's been a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Conflict of interest disclosure waiver requests. I did not see any tonight. That takes us to approval of the minutes from our special meeting on December 9th and then our regular meeting that we had on December 14th. I would entertain a motion to approve those as presented.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a first and second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Community input, I don't believe there is any tonight. That takes us to financial items, bills and claims. Mr. Lundberg, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Any questions from the board member? Specifically, I have a few things noted. Sorry. A couple of things noted, if I may. On page 3, we had the quarterly billing from Teachwell, just under 200,000. 197,000. Page 4, GNR controls, 585,000. A lot of what we label as COVID HVAC upgrades. Majority of that is at the middle school. As you can see, just under 500,000 for air handling units, new ones there. Also down towards the bottom of page 4, High Point Networks. COVID network equipment. Majority of that, we were able to replace all of our wireless access points in the district. They were about 8 years old, so that'll be a big help. On page 7, Pesca Construction, 679,000, brings the total paid to date of 7.9 million. And then on page 10, U.S. Bank, 3 bond payments there. I did want to just point out the bond payment on the new elementary school, $327,725. That goes against the capital projects fund rather than the bond fund. We capitalize that initial interest cost of that project in the bond funds, so we could wait until Robert Bennis was paid off before we put that on the tax rolls. So that's incorporated in all the monies that we got from the general obligation bonds. Total bills of $2,559,000. Advance payments breakdown is for your review. $55,406 of pay vouchers substitutes and $141,257 of food service bills.
Any questions for Mr. Lundberg on the bills and claims?
I got one, Paul. That ventilation project, that will be deferred till summertime, or is that now?
Yeah, they're,
Oh, I'm doing it now? Okay.
I think they're about 95% done.
If there are no other questions for Mr. Lundberg on the bills and claims, I would entertain a motion to approve them as presented, please.
So moved.
There's been a first and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Financial report, Mr. Lundberg.
Okay. Cash report for the month of December showed, in the third column, I'm looking down, 21.5 million coming into the month, just under $6 million of receipts, $5,940,000. and $5,862,000 of disbursements. Left $21,739,000 in cash. $6.9 million was in the general fund. $4.8 million was in the capital outlay fund. $1.2 million in the special education fund. $16,930 in the enterprise fund, and just under $8.7 million in the capital projects fund. The $5.9 million is itemized on the next two pages. Following that is an investment report of $7.2 million. Following that is a payroll and benefits summary report for the month of December, $2,209,000 total payroll. Included in that $2.2 million was some more coronavirus monies that we paid out to the certified staff, 2 additional flexible curriculum days amounting to $180,000. I didn't have anything noted on the financial revenues and expenditures. Starts to make a little bit more sense here in December, 6 months through the year. Revenues really start to pan out at that 50% level, and likewise with expenditures. The food service statement showed a net profit of $241,000 through the 6 months ended December 31st. And then trust and agency statement had $215,959 in amounts held for others. And lastly, the capital projects fund for your review. Just under $9.5 million of expenditures and $18,159,000 of revenues. One item of good news on the capital projects end of things, it's not on your agenda, it'll be on your next agenda, that we did bid out the furnishings, the desks and chairs and all that stuff, and they came in very favorably. Received 4 bids ranging from $430,000 to $680,000, so I'm very happy with the competitiveness of those bids. Any questions?
Hearing no questions, I would entertain a motion to approve the financial report as presented, please.
Second.
There's been a first and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you very much. Next, we move on to our general business items. Administration reports, Administrative Center, Superintendent Larson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A few items to update you on here this evening. You can see the Inspiration Elementary School construction timeline is as previously presented. Would note we continue to press PESCA to accelerate their timeline so that we feel more comfortable with our move-in date, but we have no reason at this point in time to not open in the fall of 2021. So continuing to work that process. Inspiration Elementary School staffing timeline, you would note in your agenda that we have our Inspiration Elementary transfers for information only included in the personnel section. Would note that we posted those positions for all staff, including our Fred Assam and Valley Springs staff that are impacted by the boundary line change. Back in October, we worked through that process and ultimately have what I'm going to classify as our core instructional classroom set of teachers for Inspiration Elementary. It's important to note that January 8th was the deadline for families that wanted to open enroll during the special open enrollment timeframe, as well as the third graders indicate to us that their third grader would be staying at their respective school. And my early review of those numbers is very favorable as far as sections and manageability for our Inspiration Elementary School staffing. I would note that we may likely see an additional section get added at Inspiration Elementary or an additional section get added back at Fred Assam based on how those numbers play out, but we're very close in terms of the staffing of that school. I would note that the Encore, the special education, and the classified staffing of that will occur here in the near future. Specifically with our Encore component, we have some personnel items as well as some educational programming things that we have to work through before we make those assignments or hires. And then in terms of special education, we really wanted to see what requests we received for staying at Fred Assam or going to Inspiration and how that would impact our need. We do anticipate needing 1.5 FTE or full-time equivalencies at Inspiration Elementary. So we'll work through that process here in the very near future. But it's very positive to have that core instructional group and that foundation taken care of, and then we'll work through those other staffing items here, like I said, in the near future. As previously referenced, our Inspiration Elementary School enrollment processes our initial processes are complete. So all of those families that were impacted, their residence was impacted by the boundary change, were communicated with in a variety of ways and ultimately received their postal letter outlining the deadline and their need to communicate. That has been completed. And we will be processing those open enrollment requests. I can tell you that all of our third graders are obviously able to stay at their respective building if the parents requested in accordance to the criteria we established. And we will also be able to accommodate all of the open enrollment requests that we received to stay at Fred Assam or Valley Springs Elementary if they met the deadline. So those that met the deadline, the January 8th deadline, we will be approving those open enrollments here over the course of the next few weeks, but certainly getting those processed and out and back to those families by February. But the really good news is if they were engaged in the process and completed the request, we were able to accommodate all of those requests from those specific families. The academic calendar is currently in progress. We'll receive an initial presentation tonight. Certainly want to just note that we appreciate the Administrative Council, Teacher Liaison Council, Classified Council for their help in the development of that. One district, one book. We are excited to engage in this project. The week of February 8th through the 11th will serve as one district, one book, with an emphasis on the importance of reading, obviously, but also social and emotional learning, coping skills for our students, and then also mental health for our students, staff, families, and parents is a component of One District, One Book. We look forward to our staff getting creative and infusing that in all that we do as we work to promote connectedness amongst the Brandon Valley School District community. I've provided you a one-page overview as well as a copy of that book for your review. You will certainly be receiving a presentation and information at our February board meeting on that special project. Budget process is obviously currently in swing, working through all of the budget documents that need to be compiled and reviewed. We'll receive a presentation of the 5-year plan in the coming month of February, and then we'll also work through our approval of new staffing positions, etc. You can expect to see the preliminary capital outlay budget in March, which is necessary for us to get approved all of those big ticket items that have to work through the bid process. In May, you'll have the preliminary budget presentation, and then in July, we'll hold our public budget hearing and potentially have action. A pandemic response plan update. There are 2 alternative timelines that have been established by the South Dakota Department of Health and the CDC, which you are aware of. Those specific quarantine close contact quarantines. There is a 7-day and a 10-day timeline that has been established. They require specific criteria. I would encourage anyone with questions on that to visit our COVID-19 information website, as it's clearly outlined there. And then Q3 COVID-19 restrictions continue. We're able to continue with status quo in terms of limited attendance per rostered participant, limiting visitors during the school day. All of those restrictions and mitigation strategies that we've had in place for quarters 1 and 2 will continue for quarter 3. Administratively, we will review those mitigation strategies and evaluate whether or not we're able to make any changes to those respective restrictions for quarter 4. I would anticipate in late February we would bring that forward if we have the ability to alter those restrictions. Kindergarten screening. If you know anyone who has a future kindergartner, or they look like they might have a future kindergartner, please, please, please tell them to contact their respective elementary centers so we can get them signed up for screening and get them enrolled. You've heard Mr. Lundberg speak about it on a regular basis during our budget presentations about how our kindergarten numbers really are the straw that stirs the drink, and we need to know those numbers as accurately as possible when we're working through those budget items. School board election, we have 2 3-year seats available. April 6th is the earliest date to circulate a petition. May 7th is the deadline for filing said petition. June 15th is the established school board election date if necessary. If you have questions or are interested, contact the business office for more details. Superintendent evaluation process is outlined for you here. We'll distribute the evaluation tool at our first meeting in February. Please complete and return that tool to President Ullom at our second meeting in February, where she will compile those results, and then we'll discuss performance in March and move through that process. The negotiations timeline has been established and agreed upon with the Brandon Valley Education Association. We will hold our pre-negotiations meeting. Brandon Valley Administration and our Teachers Association get together and discuss really non-negotiation related items that are on their mind. And then March 24th has been established as negotiations for our Personal Welfare Committee as well as the Brandon Valley Education Association. Prior to that date, we will have an executive session with the whole board to talk a little bit about negotiations preparations. But the negotiations, the initial negotiations date has been established, and then we also have additional dates established if necessary. If we're able to complete negotiations prior to, and it allows for, we will bring the master contract to you for ratification on April 12th, along with classified wage recommendation, administrative salary recommendations, etc. So that outlines upcoming negotiations. This year's academic calendar items, I guess I just want to note, we'll have no school on January 18th for in-service and workshop. Friday, February 12th, there is no school. That's the Friday of President's Day weekend. February 15th, no school as we celebrate President's Day. Parent-teacher conferences are March 15th and March 16th. I would note the Administrative Council and I will be engaging in conversation about how those will look and develop strategies as necessary and appropriate to ensure the safety of staff and students. We'll be making some determinations on the format of that in the future. There's no school for snow day on March 18th, and Friday, March 19th serves as a comp day. With that, that's all I have. Would certainly entertain any questions you have this evening.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Larson. Mr. Lundberg, anything additional tonight?
I did have one quick item further in your agenda. You are proposing to approve the extension of the Families First Coronavirus Response Act for the expanded paid leave entitlements. And I was able to put together a report for so far through December 31st for coronavirus leave that we've had. I just thought I'd give you a couple numbers on that. We've had a total of 226 staff members out of roughly 500 staff members that have participated in the 10 days of paid leave. It's amounted to 1,183 days total, just under 1,200 days of leave with coronavirus, for a total dollar amount of $268,851. So it adds up. It's, the reason I'm able to give you those numbers is we are required to keep track of that for W-2 purposes, and it's a manual process, so we just kept track of it that way. But I think it's worth noting the total number of days and dollar amount.
All of this, so we're clear, because I think we're all clear, but that's not because they were out for COVID. It's because some of them were there because they had a family member out, there was this, there was that. So we're not saying that half our staff at some point or other was.
It's everything.
We're just saying that there's something COVID related within their family or whatever else that caused it. Because on average, they missed about 4 or 5 days, if I did my math right. Does that sound right? So, I mean, obviously, that's not a full-blown. Just in case those listening or whatever jump
Yeah.
to some conclusions.
It's all of the above. Number of them have had COVID, number of them are out for close contacts, a number of them are out for family contacts, everything, inclusive of everything, 1,200 days.
And Paul, is that 100% going to be federally funded, or we don't know that for sure yet?
That's the plan that I've been talking to the superintendent about, to utilize our second round of stimulus dollars to pay for that expenditure.
So the act doesn't have extra funds just for that? We'd have to use it from our package?
Right,
Got
right.
it.
And hence the continuation of that later in your agenda.
Right. Ellie, I think just a note in terms of, so the CARES funds that we initially received, and then the CRF funds, the 2.3 million that we had to spend before December 31st until they changed the deadline on December 28th, which we did expend all the way. And then the second round of CARES funds, I guess what I would say is we'll have just an overview of the breakdown of those amounts. My tentative numbers would tell me we have about 450,000 remaining in CARES 1. We've expended all of our CRF funds, and then we'll get, I'm going to say, estimate about 1 million in CARES 2 funds that we will certainly have to budget for next year when we talk about a distance learning academy to accommodate those things and all those other things. But we'll bring forward to you those respective budgets here in the near future.
Thank you, Mr. Lundberg and Superintendent Larson. Anything from the high school tonight, Mr. Schlagway? Other than we'll see you Wednesday. Is that right? Okay. All right, Mr. Frecking? Mr. Thorson? Mrs. Nelson? Mr. Skibsted? Mr. Pearson? Mr. Babb, anything? Ms. Foster, Mrs. Hofkamp, Mr. Horst, Mrs. Palmer? Okay, Mrs. Nelson, anything? Mr. Henschel, Mr. Marcel, anything? All right, and no board policy, which always seems to make everyone happy. First item under general business, the 2021-22 proposed academic calendar presentation. There will be no action on this.
If I can find it. All right, so Madam Chair, I did provide each of our board members with the 12-month calendar that's proposed for the 21-22 academic school year. I guess what I want to just note is that it's consistent and corresponding with a slightly later start date. And when I say that is basically the start date shifted down in terms of the calendar 1 week, with students starting on August 25th as opposed to the 18th. We looked at the 18th, which would have been that corresponding start date to this year, but based on a variety of factors, we bumped it 1 week later. I would tell you that from an operational standpoint, with bringing on the new school, the extra week will certainly be something that we appreciate. From a transportation standpoint, it gives us one more week as we process all of those bus passes, all of those various types of things. In terms of the business office and the way pay periods and weeks start, it fits really nicely there as well. So that's where we ended up going. We landed on the 25th as a start date for students, and we're still able to end the school year prior to Memorial Day. So that's why I say when we look at that start date, it just fit within the calendar. Other than that, I'm going to tell you it's consistent and corresponding in terms of how we approach many of our respective breaks, etc. So, August, you can see we have new staff in service on the 18th, and then we have split workshop in service and workshop days on Thursday, August 19th, Monday the 23rd, Tuesday the 24th. That allows staff to have that Friday off and take that long weekend prior to the start of school if they choose. And then we would propose school start Wednesday, August 25th. When we look at September, no school obviously on the 6th, which is Labor Day. You can see fall parent-teacher conferences are scheduled for September 27th and 28th. We're continuing with those early parent-teacher conference dates because that was a prior staff request. So about, it was 3 or 4 years ago, folks asked to have those parent-teacher conferences moved earlier in semester 1. So we're able to coordinate that. What I would say is if we want to alter parent-teacher conferences dates back later, it takes multiple years to do that as we try and coordinate with all of our contracted extracurricular activities and those types of things. So the conferences will need to remain as scheduled for the 27th and the 28th. We will have regular school days on conferences. We'll utilize a staggered and rotating dinner schedule to make certain that those items move efficiently and effectively. And then our comp day is on Friday, October 1st. There is no school for in-service on Monday, October 11th. That does correspond with Native American Day. November, there is no school on Thursday, November 11th for Veterans Day. And then I would note Thanksgiving break. We are continuing with our consistent practice of the Wednesday of Thanksgiving off with no school Wednesday, November 24th, no school 25th or the 26th. In the month of December 2021, winter break, we will have a 2-hour early dismissal on Wednesday, December 22nd, and then Thursday, December 23rd marks our first full day off for the winter break through Sunday, January 2nd, with school resuming on Monday, January 3rd. And then, if you're a counter of the number of days in each quarter and that type of thing, you would note that our quarter 1 and quarter 2 are just a shade longer than quarter 3 and quarter 4. And part of the reason for that is the way that January 17th, which is our Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and we've taken that historically as in-service day, we are contractually obligated to have a workshop day for staff after semester 1. So we were able to make the calendar work and fit that in as that contractually obligated day off on that Monday. That's a direct result of moving it 1 week later in this calendar, as you can see. February 18th, no school. Monday, February 21st is President's Day, no school, so continuing with that consistent practice of the 4-day weekend on President's Day. Getting into March, you'll see our spring parent-teacher conference schedule. As I noted, regular school days, the dinner schedule is staggered and rotating to ensure that our parents have someone available to meet with while they are on site. the continued practice of no school on Thursday of that week for a snow day. And then no school Friday, March 18th is a comp day. All right, moving into April. I think April, did that show up? Sorry. April 1st, in-service date. With the loss of that, with 2 in-service days in January due to moving the schedule back and being able to accommodate the end of semester 1 in-service date, we had an in-service date that we needed to fit into our calendar, so we are utilizing Friday, April 1st. That'll be a nice day to prepare for Smarter Balanced assessments, do those types of things on April 1st. Spring break, corresponding with Easter, 2-hour early dismissal, Thursday, April 14th. No school on Friday, April 15th, or Monday, April 18th. And then Monday, I would just note, Brandon Valley High School, or on Monday, in May of 2022, Brandon Valley High School graduation is scheduled for Sunday, May 15th. That is the corresponding date with graduation being the 3rd Sunday of May. And it's important to note that folks think about that right now. I received a call from a gal who's trying to plan a wedding and a graduation. She just wanted to make certain that it wasn't changing from the 3rd Sunday. So I took a message and told her I'd call her back if it was changing. Last day for students, Wednesday, May 25th, with a workshop for staff on that Thursday following. So again, the consistent and corresponding items that I would note, just the start date moved slightly later due to calendar dynamics and district operations. And then the other items are consistent and corresponding with our last 3 or so academic calendars. So with that, I would certainly entertain any questions you have, or comments, concerns, and then we'll bring forward a recommendation for an academic calendar adoption at our second meeting in January.
You mentioned consistent. Is there any way that we could not have COVID in 21, 22? Yeah. I understand that it takes a while to shift things with conferences and of the like. And I think there's pros and cons to having conferences early in Q1. I think I just put it out there. I'm not a teacher, obviously. I definitely don't have those skills, and I hold you all in high regard that are. Thank you for taking care of my son. Conferences in first quarter are only 4 weeks into the school year. For the most part, I think kids might still be in the honeymoon period. I don't know if we want to survey staff again to find out, is that something we want to keep there? Do we want to try to shift things around? Yes, it's maybe good. We get to talk with parents early in the school year, set some good habits so that they are on the right path, for the next 4 weeks, getting into the end of first quarter. Or is it, you know what, I'm only 4 weeks in. I don't have a lot to talk to you, mom and dad, guardian. Gee, I wish we had more time to survey. I don't know. I think that's something we may want to survey, or for a teacher's perspective. I know as a parent, I've had both. I've had some good early conferences where, this is where we're at, and these are some good things to be thinking about as we go forward. And then there's, I don't really know them a lot yet. Sure. So I did, just for
sure.
Food for fodder.
I think my comment would be, number one, it provides us an opportunity to develop a positive relationship early with our parents and develop that line of communication. Obviously, if there are any issues or concerns, we will address them. We address them whether we have conferences early or late. I was once told the best part about an early conference is you can write a plan as opposed to an obituary. So when I think about a student's academics, it's good to have that early connection and touch base with that. We did evaluate, I'll tell you, we did evaluate October 4th and 5th, and also October 8th and 9th. And in terms of moving conferences, it is not feasible. So we're going to deal with them on the 27th and the 28th to the best of our ability. And at that point in time, if we think they're too early and we're going to stay with this start date type of thing when we look at the next calendar, that's when we have to have some conversations about all of the other complex things associated with calendars and activities, et cetera. But I think we can make it work. The biggest thing is to have our initial academic data, specifically at the elementary levels, established so that we can talk to parents about what we're seeing as far as where they are coming into the school year at and how they should progress and those types of things.
No, I agree with you. So I think it's more of setting the expectation of what those initial conferences really are for. And so if we're going to leave it that way, it's almost setting it a culture so parents know, oh, that's what the first conferences are really set for, not so much for maybe the academic, but more of the relationship and setting the plan. I think that's a good thing to know. And then that second conference is more of, well, where are we academically and getting to know, things a little bit more like the traditional conference. So good to know.
All right, if there are no other questions on the academic calendar, it looks like that will come again to us the next meeting. With that, I would entertain a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the extension of the expanded paid leave entitlements outlined in the Family First Coronavirus Response Act for the remainder of the 2021 academic school year calendar.
Second.
There's been a first and a second. All of those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Personnel items, I would entertain a motion to approve items 1 through 16 as presented.
So moved.
There's been a first and a second. All of those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Items 17 through 21 are for information only. That takes us to the communication central office. There are some building permits applications there that are highlighted for your review. Board of Education, there are 8 thank you notes there from various people saying thank you for various things. Much appreciated. That takes us to our board reports section. Does anyone have a formal board report that they would like to share tonight? Everybody's pretty quiet. All right, with that, it looks like that takes us to the end of our scheduled agenda. I would entertain a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
There's been a first and a second. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.